Hello, HEXPOL Nation. I am Dr. Mary Jeanne Holt, and I am back to speak with you again about wellness and promoting our wellness program here at HEXPOL. I'm speaking to you from our Dyersburg campus, and I am delighted to be with you. And if you recall, last time that we were together, I spoke about wellness and the idea that wellness is a lifestyle. Wellness is the idea that we are being proactive about our health and well-being, that we are willing to continually learn new information so that we can make better choices every single day to increase our health and well-being. And today I want to talk specifically about the dimensions of wellness. So last time again I mentioned that there are these different dimensions of wellness, meaning different areas of life that absolutely affect our ability to be healthy and to be happy. So the first dimension of wellness that I want to address is just the physical dimension. So that has to do with your body. And anything that affects your body has to do with the physical dimension, such as what we choose to eat, what we choose to drink, how well we sleep, whether or not we choose to exercise. All of these things affect our physical bodies, which affect our wellness. The other thing that is very important to me is called the mental dimension. It's also referred to as the intellectual dimension of wellness. And the intellectual dimension has nothing to do with how smart you are or how far you went in school. It just has to do with how you choose to use your thoughts. And for a lot of people, this is a big deal because we're not really taught this in school or as a society. But we have the ability to actually choose what we think. And I mentioned this before, and I'll say it probably multiple times during our time together. For every thought you think, your body creates a chemical. And your body talks to itself all the time in two different ways. One is through our chemicals that we produce, such as our hormones and our neurotransmitters, but also through the central nervous system, and that has to do with chiropractic. That's what I do every day on a daily basis. And that's more in the central nervous system. Our nerves talk to each other, or our nerves talk to the different parts of the body, our brain to the periphery of the body. But through the nervous system, it's like little chemical or electrical impulses, I should say. When we talk about the others, these are the chemicals, again, our hormones, our neurotransmitters. And they're resulting from how we are thinking. So again, you have a huge ability to affect your happiness every single day by the thoughts that you think. So that is a huge thing for most of us to learn that. The other dimension I want to speak about is our emotional dimension. So again, that has to do with our feelings, our emotional nature. And what comes to mind, first of all, with emotions has to do with our ability to not necessarily react to things that happen in our environment, but to take a moment and actually respond. And I think we all know that by now because we're all adults. We can't just go out there and respond or, react initially to everything that comes up. But as we get more and more into wellness, what you will be learning, I hope, is that you have the ability to actually slow down and not only not react and to respond more appropriately to any situation, but also more positively to any situation. To actually use your ability to think ahead of time and to choose a more optimal approach to any given situation so that you can stay as positive as possible. Because again, remember, every thought you think is creating a chemical. It's either promoting health or illness. And your thoughts and your emotions are so intertwined. No one has definitely said which one comes first, the thought or the emotion. And I've looked into this quite a bit in my professional life. So they're so intertwined. We just want to keep both our thoughts and our emotions as positive as possible. And not to make it sound like it's Pollyanna. It's not at all. You're going to have things come up during the day that you're not going to agree with. But the more that you can just take a moment and choose your response, choose to stay positive, give yourself the ability to be in control and actually winning, and I call it a win, in your situation, that you will be happier and healthier. And again, we'll talk in more detail about this as we go along, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. For your thoughts and for your emotions, we have a choice. And we don't have to grab hold of the first thing that comes up in our mind. We don't have to identify with our thoughts and emotions. We can actually take a breath and choose to be more positive than we may initially feel. The other thing I want to talk about is the social dimension. So social dimension of wellness relates to how we feel in our relationships. Now, this is huge, and it's something we may not think about all the time, but you absolutely know that if there is someone that you care about, that you're in close relationship with, maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's just a close girlfriend, or just friend, or even coworker. If it's someone that means something to you, that relationship has value to you, if you are somehow having a bump in the road, is what I call it, you don't feel so good inside. And if you're not feeling so good inside, you're not thinking positive thoughts, and you're not creating happy chemicals inside of your body. So it's very important to always keep our relationship with others as positive as possible. If you feel there's a bump in the road, talk about it. Get out there and communicate. Don't let something become bigger than it needs to be, because that detracts from your ability to stay happy and to stay well. And the other thing I want to mention about the social dimension, it's not just how we relate to other people. The really biggest piece here is how we relate to ourselves, because most people do not have a loving relationship with themselves. Unfortunately, this is a big lesson in life for most of us. And keep in mind, I've been in private practice as a chiropractor for almost 30 years, or maybe 32 years. It's been a long time. I've talked to a lot of people about their health and their wellness, and I've practiced nutrition for, I don't know, at least 12 years. So I've had a lot of experience with this, and for my own self as well. I know that having a positive, loving, and when I say love, I'm talking about unconditional loving relationship with yourself is absolutely vital to being able to have that kind of experience with someone else. It really starts with your relationship with yourself. And then, when you are able to be compassionate with yourself, no matter how many mistakes you make, I'm speaking from my own experience, but I'm assuming other people have that same thing, that we are all perfectly imperfect. That's why we're on the planet. And we are here to help each other and support each other, learn and grow. But one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle is working with ourselves, loving ourselves, and then as we extend compassion to ourselves, we are much more likely to want to and be willing to extend that compassion to others when they may make mistakes along the way. So that's something I want you to focus on, is having that loving relationship with yourself, being unconditionally accepting of yourself first. The other dimension of wellness has to do with the environment. It's called environmental wellness. And there are actually three aspects to this that I want to point out. One is, I'm pointing to, there's a window out here. How do I feel about the environment outside? Am I concerned that we have enough clean air and clean water for everybody on the planet to survive? Yes, that's important to me. So you need to ask that of yourself. And I do feel a relationship with the trees and the grass and the birds that sing. Absolutely. I also have a relationship with the environment inside of a building. So in any room, in your home, in your workplace, you can look, the color of the paint on the wall makes a difference. I'm telling you, in prisons and hospitals, they do not put red paint on the wall. Red is the color that is associated with more car accidents. If you drive a red car, be careful. If you're wearing a red dress, you're not trying to hide in the crowd. It's a color that has a lot of energy associated with it. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying each color, again, is energy. And it evokes certain emotions, because our emotions are energy as well. So you will find in hospitals and prisons softer colors like blues, nice, soft, gentle colors. So think about that in your workspace or in your home space. So the colors on the wall, the type of lighting you have. There was a great clip. I just happened to be listening to this. It was someone being interviewed on TV, and it was about your home office. And it really caught my attention because this was great. I happen to love art. And so what they said, the first thing for your home office that you want to choose is your chair. As a chiropractor, that caught my attention. You want your chair to be comfortable, to support your back and support your joints. The next thing, believe it or not, number 2, the art. Choose something for your wall, something to give you a feeling of relaxation and inspiration. So that, again, is part of the environmental dimension of health. The other dimension I want to bring up is called the spiritual dimension. And I love to talk about spirituality. I don't talk about religion. We're not going there. But spirit relates to everything that we don't see. So again, I feel a spiritual connection with the trees outside. I feel a spiritual connection with my fellow man, with my coworkers, with my friends, with my pets. So the big thing here is the question that you can ask yourself in the spiritual dimension: do I feel a part of something that is larger than myself? Is there a sense of trust that I have with an energy that is bigger than I am? Something that connects all of us, that makes us all one. Just something to ask yourself. There's no right or wrong with how you interact with these dimensions, but it's very important to pay attention to them, to think about them. Again, because how you feel about these things affects your ability to have a sense of success, a sense of well-being in all aspects of your life. So the other thing I want to speak about today is going back to wellness and the definition. I want to break the definition down into smaller bits of information. So number one, wellness is the ability to be proactive. So being proactive means that we are being active before something happens. So when it comes to health versus illness, being proactive as far as wellness means you're paying attention to your body. That if you're getting some kind of symptom, if you're starting to feel low energy, that you do something about that immediately. You don't wait for that to turn into something bigger where then you have to go to the doctor, you have to take drugs, or you have to miss work. No, you're paying attention, you're right on top of it. So if my energy is low, what do I need to do? For some it means you take a nap, you get some extra rest. If you've been resting too much, maybe you need to go for a walk, that sort of thing. But it's being proactive, paying attention every single moment. Wellness is also taking responsibility for our health and well-being, so that's very similar to being proactive. You're being responsible yourself as much as you can, and what we'll find, research shows this, that they followed certain groups of people for a number of years, and they found that people that were choosing a wellness lifestyle saw the medical doctor less frequently. And I believe it was 35% less frequently for minor illnesses, minor conditions. That's huge, because none of us want to go to the doctor. Sometimes we have to, absolutely. But for these minor aches and pains or minor symptoms that come up, we don't have to go running to the doctor if we're being proactive, if we're taking responsibility for our health. Again, wellness is an ongoing process. I want to point this out because we're looking at all these different dimensions of wellness, and the whole idea is that we want to be as successful in every area as possible. But that's never going to happen, that we're going to be as successful as possible in every area. Life just doesn't work that way. We're going to be balancing these different dimensions all the time. And some of the time we're going to be giving more priority to one than another. But the idea, the goal is to be as successful as possible in any one area. But what I want to point out, it's not like you have a goal of reaching a certain point. It's something that you're working towards all the time. It's just an ongoing process. The other thing that's important to mention, that wellness is based upon a willingness. Now pay attention to this. See how your body feels when I talk about I'm willing to be open to new ideas, as opposed to the opposite, which is willpower. When you're coming from willpower, you're coming from a place of kind of the ego. You're coming from really tightening up. Your body tightens up. Yes, I can do it. I've got the willpower. I can do it. I don't want you to do that, because that's not healthy. Compare that to the willingness, and when I'm willing to be open to new ideas, I'm totally at ease. I'm totally relaxed. I call it my heart is open. My mind is open. And when I speak to you guys, when I'm teaching, I'm always speaking from both places, the head and the heart. So pay attention to that. Just be willing to learn new ideas. And just that simple willingness will make a huge change in your daily living. Also, wellness is a state of health that is closely related to your lifestyle. And I'll mention this multiple times. Lifestyle is huge because in our country, in modern society, what we suffer from the most are chronic illnesses. Chronic illnesses are over 90% the result of our lifestyle choices, not our genes. I will be talking about this off and on, maybe every time we get together, because it's huge. Most people still think it's our genes that determine our chronic disease. That is not true. It is lifestyle. So again, lifestyle is based on our choices, and so we want to develop the healthiest lifestyle possible. And the more that we can learn what choices we have, the more opportunity we have to create a lifestyle of wellness and happiness. In wellness, we emphasize the whole person. So again, body, mind, spirit. That's what we're about at HEXPOL. We're about choosing wellness, and we're about body, mind, spirit. As I mentioned before, there is no difference. You cannot separate your physical body from your emotions and your thoughts, because they're all entwined. And so that's what we are emphasizing here at HEXPOL with our wellness program. Wellness also understands that everything that we think, feel, and believe and experience has an influence upon our ability to express health or not. So again, it's what we think, what we feel, but also our beliefs. And a lot of our beliefs are in the subconscious area, not our conscious mind. Our mind has actually 3 different parts. I'm going to talk about 2 of them right now. One is just our conscious mind, where we choose our thoughts. But the other part is our unconscious. And our unconscious part of our mind was actually all filled up with certain beliefs by the time we were 6 years old. So a lot of us have belief systems that need to be updated. And there are reasons that we started believing things before we were 6 years old. And very quickly, one of those is because our brain, our mind, operates at a slower rate when we're young, and then it starts speeding up. And so when we're up to 6 years old, our mind is operating at a slower rate. And everything we hear, everything that we experience goes into our subconscious, and we're as though it were true. And it's not until we get older that we have the ability to really think about things like, do I believe that's true or not? So anything that as an adult you have a hard time changing, I would suggest that you have some kind of subconscious programming that's inhibiting that. An example I like to use is for a young child, say they had an aunt who's very loving and caring that the child sees maybe once a year, and so the aunt comes in and grabs that cheek and goes, "Oh, you're so cute and chubby." And so cute and chubby, that child could start associating being cute with being chubby. That young child could have a lifetime now of having a hard time losing weight, because subconsciously there's a program that's associating being attractive with being a little bit chubby. So I just want to mention that our belief systems are huge in this whole area of health and wellness. And that's something that we'll look at in more detail as we go along. But it's good just to be aware of that when we're thinking mind, body, spirit, when we're thinking about choosing wellness, it's important to start paying attention. That's all I'm asking you to do. Pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your belief systems are, and choosing the most positive ones, because the most positive state that we can stay in as far as our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, the more positive chemicals that we're creating in our body, and the happier that we're going to be. And I may not have mentioned this, there's tons of studies. This is a new part of psychology, the study of how our mind works, psychology. It's called positive psychology. And what science shows us that anything that you do, any activity that you do, if you start out in a happy mode, you are going to be more successful at that. You start out happy, you're going to be more successful. You could be baking a cake, you can be working in your yard, you can be at work, whatever you're doing. And I think that is an incredibly important piece of information to know, because again, we can choose wellness, we can choose happiness, we can choose to be happy, we can choose to be positive and to think happy thoughts. So that is my wellness thought for you for the day. And thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next month. And I wish you all a month of wellness and happiness at HEXPOL. Okay, bye.